This is the Math 7 Decimals Review. So in this video, we are going to cover decimal operations with both positive and negative decimals. So we'll be adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing with positive and negative decimals. So what I want you guys to do during this video is before you hear my explanation and my work for each problem, I'd like for you to pause the video, try the problem on your own first, then restart the video, watch my explanation and work, and make sure you're doing it correctly. So give it a chance first, check your work with mine as we go through this. So our first couple problems are going to be addition. So we're going to be adding positive and negative decimals. So our first problem is 9 2/10 plus a negative 2 8/10. So again, what I want you to do, pause the video, try this first, then restart the video, listen to the explanation, and make sure you got it right. Check your work. Okay, so for adding decimals, the key here is we got to look at our signs first. So we've got 9 2/10, that's positive, and then we've got this negative 2 8/10. So we've got more positive than negative. So I know this answer is going to be a positive answer. And since we're adding here with different signs, we need to find the difference first. So I'm actually going to take 9 2/10 and subtract 2 8/10. So I'm going to have to do a little borrowing. And I get 6 4/10. And I know this is positive because there are more positives than negatives. So our answer is actually 6 4/10 here. Our second problem is negative 4 28/100 plus another negative 2 56/100. Again, pause the video, try it, and then check your work with mine. Okay, here we're adding with the same sign. So with adding with same sign numbers like integers or even here with decimals, we add the values, keep the sign. So it's negative plus a negative, so this is going to be a negative answer. We're going to line these up. When we're adding or subtracting with decimals, we need to make sure we line our decimals up. So here we're going to add our values. We get 14, we regroup, an 8 there, bring down your decimal, 4 plus 2 is 6. So it's a negative answer, so our answer is actually negative 6 84/100. Our next set of problems are going to be subtraction. So we're going to be subtracting with positive and negative here. The big rule with subtraction is keep, change, change. And that's going to help us change these into addition problems, which we seem to be really good at knowing those rules, knowing how to do that. So our first problem is 2 86/100 minus 12 1/10. So go ahead and try that on your own and then start the video up again so you can check your work with mine. Okay, here first I'm going to start with a keep, change, change. I've got 2 86/100 plus a negative 12 1/10. So here I've got more negatives than positives, so I know my answer is going to be negative. And when I'm adding with different signs, I want to find the difference. So I'm going to take the larger value, 12 1/10, and I'm going to subtract the smaller value. Our decimal digits don't line up, so I'm going to add a placeholder there. And then I'm going to do regular subtraction. I'm going to have to borrow here. I actually have to do a lot of borrowing on this one. So I get 9 24/100. I know my answer should be negative, so my answer is a negative 9 24/100 for that one. Second problem is 5 647 thousandths minus a negative 9 24/100. So pause the video, try this one on your own, and then restart it when you have completed it. Okay, so for this one, again, I'm going to do a keep, change, change. So this first number stays the same. This subtraction turns into addition. That negative sign makes it positive, so I don't need to really write that positive sign there. So now I've got a positive decimal plus another positive. So it's just going to be regular adding with decimals. So we need to line those decimals up when we're adding. So I'm going to do 5 647 thousandths, 9 24/100. Add a placeholder there, and I'm going to do regular addition. So 7 plus 0 is 7, 4 plus 4 is 8, 6 plus 2 is 8, and then 5 plus 9 is 14. My My final answer here is 14 and 887 thousandths. Okay, our next couple problems are going to be multiplication. So when we are multiplying with our decimals positive and negative here, we do not line up our decimals. But we also have to keep in mind of those integer rules. Adding, subtracting, we use the same integer rules. The same thing applies to multiplication, and when we get to it, division as well. So if it helps, go back and review those integer rules that we talked about in the beginning of the year. They still apply in these cases. So our first problem is negative 4 and 4/10 multiplied by negative 6 and 2/100. So what I like to decide first, is it going to be positive or negative? So go ahead and decide that, try the problem on your own, and then restart the video when you're ready to go. Okay, referring back to the integer rules, negative times a negative is going to give us a positive answer. Here, we're going to take our longer number, put that on top. We line up digits, not decimals, when we're multiplying here. And we're going to ignore the decimal until the very end. So I'm going to do 4 times 2, which is 8. 4 times 0 is 0. 6 times 4 is 24. When I move to this second digit here, I need a 0 placeholder. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 6, 24. So we add these together. And then what we have to decide is where to put our decimal place. So we have to look at our original problem and see how many numbers are behind decimals. So there's 2 in the first one, 1 in the second. So a total of 3, meaning we have to move our decimal 3 times to the left. We get 26 and 488 thousandths. Okay, second problem, negative 6 and 2/10 times 8 and 1800ths. Go ahead and pause the video, try this on your own, and then restart it when you're ready to check. Okay, so for this one, we've got a negative times a positive. So we're going to have a negative answer. Different signs when we're multiplying are going to give us negative answers. Again, we're going to do longest number on top, smaller number or shorter number, excuse me, on the bottom. Do regular multiplication and then deal with where we put our decimal at the end. So 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 1 is 2, plus that one we regrouped is 3. 2 times 8 again, 16. Add that placeholder 0. 6 times 8 is 48. Carry the 4. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10. We group there. 6 times 8 is 48, plus 1 is 49. Add those together. And then we have to decide where we're putting our decimal. So we've got 2 numbers behind our decimal in our first, 1 in our second. So we're moving it again 1, 2, 3 times to the left. And we get 50 and 716 thousandths, but we can't forget that it is negative, so we add that negative sign as well. Okay, our last 2 problems are division. Same rules apply here as multiplication. So if we have same signs of our 2 numbers, it's going to be a positive. And if we have different signs, it's going to be negative. So again, those are our integer rules we learned at the beginning of the year. Make sure you refresh your mind on those. Those are really helpful. We use them all throughout the year. So here we've got 8 and 722 thousandths divided by a negative 3 and 56 hundredths. So pause the video, try this one on your own, and then restart it when you're ready to check. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to decide here is it's a positive divided by a negative. So my answer is going to be negative. Our second number here in our problem is going to be our divisor, or the outside number here. And then we put our first number on the inside, which is called our dividend. Now, what we have to remember when we're dividing with decimals is our outside number, our divisor, has to be a whole number. So here it's not a whole number, so we need to make sure we move our decimal however many times it takes to make that outside number a whole number. So here we have to move it once, twice. So whatever we do on the outside, we have to do on the inside. So we're going to move that once, twice, and then bring our decimal straight up into our quotient, which is going to be the answer to this division problem. Then from here, we ignore decimals. Now we're doing regular long division. So we've got 356 going into 872 and 2/10. Here we've got some larger numbers to deal with. So we have to see 356 can't go into 8. It can't go into 87, but we can divide that into 872. And I'm going to say that's probably 2 times. So 356, when we multiply that by 2, and again, if you need to do any multiplication to the side, please do that. So 2 times 356 gives us 712. So then we have to do some subtraction here. 2 minus 2 is 0. 7 minus 1 is 6. 8 minus 7 is 1. We've got a remainder of 160. We've got this 2 left over that we haven't dropped down yet. We're going to bring that down. And then we have to see how many times 356 can go into 1,602. So here it's going to be 4 times. So 356 multiplied by 4 gives us 1,424. Again, we have some subtraction. So we take our 1,602, subtract 1,424. You should get 178 when you do all of your regrouping or borrowing, excuse me. You add in your placeholder here because we can't have a remainder. So here we've got that 0 we added, and then we drop that down. So we've got 1,780. So we're going to say that's 5 times. When we multiply 356 by 5, we get that 1,780. So we have no remainder here. But what we do have to remember is we decided it was negative. So it's negative 2 and 45 hundredths. So with these larger numbers, they may take a little bit of extra time. So make sure you're really careful on your subtraction. Last problem. We've got a negative divided by a negative. So decide if that's positive or negative. Pause the video, try this problem on your own, and then restart it when you're ready. Okay, so negative divided by negative is going to be a positive. The second number goes on the outside here, is our divisor. And our first number is our dividend. Again, we need to make sure our outside number is a whole number, so we move our decimal place twice. So now it's 8 going into 904. 8 can go into 9 one time with 1 left over. We drop down our 0. 8 can go into 10 one time again. We have 2 left over. We bring down our 4. And 8 can go into 24 3 times. 3 times 8 is 24. So here we ended up not needing to add that extra 0 to bring it down. We actually ended up with just an answer 113. We decided in the beginning our answer was going to be positive, so we don't need to write any sign in front of that. So this is the end of our review video. Feel free to rewatch any section you need to rewatch. Look over your notes, integer rules, notes from class example problems, and good luck studying.